Hi everyone, it's Beth with Flying by the Seat of My Plants, and I know it's been a while. Today is December 3rd. We already went through Thanksgiving. I hope you guys had a wonderful holiday. I had my mom and George over for dinner, and then my brother stopped over later. It was really nice. I found a really small turkey. It was perfect. So what I'm doing today, which I'm going to bring you along, I'm going to share my recipe for my beef stew. The other thing I'm doing is I'm finally getting around to pureeing, roasting and then pureeing my pumpkin that I grew in the garden. I had another pumpkin, but I waited too long for that. And the oven is preheating right now. And, but I want to say welcome back to everybody. Kind of took a little, I don't know, like a leave. If you want to call it that. Just a lot of family stuff going on, and so anyhow, I wanted to get back on here, say hi to everyone, but today what I'm doing is I went ahead, and this pumpkin was from the garden, so I cleaned out the inside of it and got all the seeds out, and right now I'm just putting it on a foil lined cookie sheet, and I set the oven for 350. And I'm just gonna let this roast in the oven. I'm not putting oil on it, it's dry, and I just want to roast it. So you could put oil on it if you want, I'm not. But when I was younger and when I first made pumpkin pie from the real pumpkin, I boiled it, which you could do it that way, but you don't have to. And I also used a regular carving pumpkin back then, and the pie was actually a little bit stringy. So, I mean, I highly recommend, you know, getting the little pumpkin pies, or the pumpkin pie pumpkins. And they're a smaller pumpkin, and this way it's not as stringy as using like a carving pumpkin. And plus, I think they're sweeter. And so right now I went ahead and I cleaned all the seeds out of the pumpkin, and I'm just spreading them out. They're in water, and I cleaned as much of the pulp off that I could, and I'm just taking these out and putting them on a cookie sheet and removing pulp as I see it, you know. I mean, if you roast some of the pulp, it's not going to hurt anything. And I just, from being in the water, so they're nice and wet, I sprinkle them with salt. The way I like my pumpkin seeds, I don't know if you've ever bought them in the store, and they're salty, and that's exactly how I like them. So, let me get these out on here. Just taking all the seeds out. Spreading them on a pan. And I'm not making a lot, it's just for me. I already made some around Halloween. And so I don't really need a lot. But I love the pumpkin seeds. And the one time I did try it with butter, I didn't like it that way. Just my own personal preference. Roasting them with butter. You could try it. Okay, so those are those seeds. And I had a pumpkin that actually it's not good for me to try and make. I let it go too long. So I'll be throwing that over the fence for the deer. And so now that I have the seeds on the cookie sheet, I'm going to change the way this camera is so you can see it. Okay, so I have everything down on the cookie sheet. It's just it was a small pumpkin, small batch, but typically I'll use either table salt, but I also have the pink Himalayan salt, so that's, I'm going to go ahead and use that. And I'm just gonna sprinkle salt on it. Pink Himalayan is more saltier tasting, I think, than your regular table salt, your white, oops. Okay, that was a lot. So you gotta pay attention to what you're doing here. Okay, so this is going in the oven, and I'm also gonna put the pumpkin in the oven. Just putting them upside down like this. It's already cleaned out. And I have the oven set at 350. Now for the pumpkin seed, normally I would only roast them at around maybe 250. But since I'm also doing the pumpkin, I'm going to keep an eye on the oven. In fact, I'm going to set the timer for 10 minutes. Okay, the timer's set. So now I'm going to go ahead and get started on the beef stew. And I went ahead and already got, I'm making a large batch because I am going to share it with my mom and George. And also, after I get done, it'll be for a couple days I can eat, and also put some in the freezer. But with this recipe, I'm going to share my grandmother's dumplings that are so delicious. I mean, as kids, we just ate it up like you wouldn't believe. So anyhow, I got beef stew. Now, if there is steak on sale, so I have already bought like, they have sirloin steak or a chuck roast, whatever might be on sale for the beef, and then you just have to cut it up. And but this, you know, so they're like in 1-inch cubes for the steak. So I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle some flour on it. This is going right on the beef stew meat. Now this was, let's see, a 1/4 cup, so I haven't even used half of it. So, and then I'm also going to sprinkle some pepper. And as far as the pepper, I don't know, maybe like a 1/4 teaspoon. And then I'm also going to do some of the pink Himalayan salt. Now, I'm probably using maybe like probably about a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, because I am adding beef broth, so I don't want to add a whole bunch of salt. So not even a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And then I'm just going to mix it. Oh, the other thing I want to add is a little bit of cornstarch. It just helps thicken it up a little. So probably like a 1/4 teaspoon of cornstarch. And then I'm just going to mix this all up and make sure all the beef gets coated. And I already used all of my potatoes from the garden, so I am using the store-bought, I'm using red potatoes, and I'll show you all of that. I still have onion that I grew, so I'm using my own onion. And then I grew those herbs, so I had thyme, I had, I made that tomato powder, so that's also going to be added to this recipe. And I'm using olive oil. Okay, so right now, oh, and I am going to use red wine. So I'm going to go ahead and move the camera over to the other side so you can see what I'm doing with the pot. And then well, actually, before I do that, I'm going to prepare all this other stuff. I already cleaned the carrots. Hands are clean. So the carrots, I am just going to cut them in like, I don't know, bite-sized pieces. They're kind of chunky. I like it that way. To me, it's kind of like a rustic beef stew. And this beef stew, you can add green beans to it. You can add corn to it. You can add whatever you want to it. But most importantly, I like it with the carrots and potatoes. Abby, I'm coming. Do you have to go outside? Go potty? No? Okay, so cutting these all up. But the dumplings are absolutely delicious. And I know some people in the family wanted to make sure they got the recipe, so I thought, you know what, that's why I'm going to do this video. And if anybody else wants to enjoy them too. Goes with chicken paprikash. But this is how my grandmother always made her vegetables. So, all right, then I got some onions. And I am not adding garlic right now. You can add garlic if you want. I just am not doing it because I'm sharing it with other people and I don't know how much they care for the garlic in there. So, but I already got the potatoes cleaned and washed. Carrots were cleaned and washed. Here, and some celery. So I got 2 stalks of celery, which I'm going to cut these up. Carrots I used, I think it was 5 nice sized carrots. Oh, and also bay leaf I'm going to add. So I cut up the celery. So right now I'm just going to put this in this dish, or in the colander. And the celery. Okay, so now I'm going to cut up the onion. And I just cut it in half. Oops. Oh. And then I make slices like this. And cut it this way so it's little pieces. But yeah, the onion is from the garden, so that makes me happy. I'm slowly using it. And here is they call it the red onion, but it's like a purple onion, which is great for salads, but it's great for cooking too. So I hope everybody's doing good out there. I feel like I've been so quiet lately. Okay, the timer's going off. I'm going to check on the pumpkin seeds real quick. I'll be right back. Okay, so all I did was move these pumpkin seeds around, mix them around a little bit. They're almost done, actually. I had them in there at 350. Like I said, normally I'd leave them in longer, like at a lower temperature, but this is working just great. So I'm going to put this back in the oven and put the timer on for another 10 minutes. And the pumpkin halves are still in there. Okay, so here's the onion. Okay, so I brought you over by the stove. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do with the beef is I'm going to coat the bottom of this Dutch oven with a little bit of olive oil. Turn the oven on, or the stove on rather. And I have the beef chunks, and so I'm going to go ahead and put this so at this stage I want to go ahead and brown my meat. So put in as much as I can just so that they're all even on the bottom. And this is like a one-pot meal, which makes it really nice. And this flour and the cornstarch is actually going to help once I get this done and I'm going to add beef stock after I brown everything. Oh, you'll see. But that flour is going to help thicken that up as it cooks. And it's absolutely delicious. Now, I've seen some people add butter. I've never done that. If you have, and if it makes a big difference, leave it in the comments. And all I'm doing right now is I just want to brown it. I want to brown the beef. And it's probably like maybe a minute or two on each side, or as you toss it around. And then the little bits of the beef is going to stick to the bottom of the pan, which is going to make it delicious. Now, the only thing I didn't buy was fresh mushrooms. I do have canned mushroom, and I can add that if I want. And you want to get it nice and brown. Okay, so after about a minute, you can actually go a little bit longer, where I'll start flipping it to get it brown on all the different sides. Okay, this is almost ready to take out. I'm going to put it on a plate, and then I have to finish cooking what's left of the beef stew. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take this out, put the rest of it in, and finish cooking the beef, and I'll bring it back. Okay, so the timer went off for the pumpkin seed, but I'm going to let them go in there another at least 10 minutes. This is not a big batch, so it really is not taking that long, but you want to make sure that, you know, they get dry. So just move them around a little, and then I'm going to pop it back in the oven. I'm going to check on the pumpkin. Ooh, and the pumpkin's actually almost ready. So I'm going to put the timer on for another 10 minutes. So far I've had the pumpkin seeds and the pumpkin in the oven at 350 for 20 minutes, so I'm adding another 10 minutes now. And then I added more of the beef. And you can see all this brown. Now this is all going to be incorporated into the stew once I get done browning all of this. All of that's going to come off the bottom. Okay, so I removed all the beef, and now I'm going to add some of the onion. All the onion and the carrots and the celery. Let the onion saute a little. actually going to add a little bit of beef stock to it right now. Not a lot, just enough to coat the bottom while that cooks. Okay, I'm going to add some more pepper. And about a 1/4 teaspoon of the Himalayan pink salt. And this is cast iron, so it's okay if I use metal on it. I mean, if you have like a pan that's non-stick, you don't want to use metal on it. But I want to get all these little pieces up that were from the beef stew, because that's going to add a really nice amount of flavor. And this is a cast iron with the enamel on it. Dutch oven, I guess. I love these pots. And it smells so good, guys. Oh my God. Okay, so I'm trying to reserve the battery, so I have to keep flipping it in and out. But anyhow, this is a beef broth using the collagen, just regular beef broth. And I'm adding this carton. Now, it's 2 pounds of the meat. So this is a 32-ounce box of the beef broth. And I might actually even add more, but we'll see. Once I add the meat and everything, I think I'll be adding more. And the other favorite ingredient that I want to add, it's a red wine. It's a dry red wine. This is the Cupcake Red Velvet. You can use Merlot, Cabernet. But I just think it adds a really nice flavor. So this is 1 cup. And I'm going to add 2 cups. A lot of it, I mean, you could do it to taste. You don't have to add the red wine. You can even use like a dark stout beer. The alcohol is going to cook out, so that's not a concern of mine. And as this cooks, of course, I'll taste it and see how it is, and if I need to add anything more. So right now I got the onions, the carrots, the celery in here, and I kind of cooked the onion and the celery a little bit with that meat and everything. So the other is I'm adding thyme. Now this was dried from my garden, and I don't dehydrate this. I hung it upside down and let it dry that way. So it hung upside down for a couple weeks, and I absolutely love thyme in my dishes. So I'm adding, I don't know, and I'm going to taste it as I'm cooking, but right now I probably added about a tablespoon of the thyme. You know what, I'm going to add a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to pause this for a minute because it smells so good. I believe the pumpkin seeds are done. And I'm trying to reserve my battery, so hang on. Okay, the pumpkin seeds are done. To be honest though, I would do it on a low heat like I normally do, like 200, and just let it dry out, almost like a dehydrating dry, because you could tell it's been cooked. So make a note of that. I mean, I would actually cook it like 200, 250, and when I do that, they're probably in there, depending on how many seeds I have, they could be on there for anywhere 45 minutes to an hour. And you just have to keep kind of moving them around on the pan. But these are definitely done. So I'm going to move this out of the way. Okay, so I added the 1 box so far of the collagen, which was 32 ounces. Added in about, I think I said, what, 2 cups of the red wine. And I added probably a tablespoon and a half. Okay, so I added the thyme, probably about a tablespoon and a half, and this is with 2 pounds of meat. And I think I am going to add another box of the collagen broth. And I went ahead and cut up my potatoes. They're red skin potatoes, so I just cut off, you know, different things that didn't look good on the potato. But otherwise, the skin's on there. And so I'm going to add that. I'm also going to add a couple of bay leaves. And I'm going to add the meat back in. Now, if this was just like a single batch that I was making, I would probably, you know, start out with maybe a teaspoon and a half of the thyme, and then taste it as you're cooking to see if you need to add more. And like I said, it's 2 pounds of beef. So far, the 1 box of the beef broth, and this is going to cook for a while, so I am going to add some more beef broth to it. So that makes me happy because the so I added about a half a box so far. I'm actually going to add a little bit. You know what? Oh, here's the other secret ingredient. This is the tomato powder. I made this. I did another video on it earlier. And this is from the, because I canned my tomatoes, so this was from all the skins of my tomatoes. So I went ahead and dehydrated them till they were totally dry. And then I just processed them and powdered them up. And so I'm going to add that to this. And I'm going to add, and it will give a beautiful tomato flavor to it. So I did like a heaping, little over a tablespoon. Mix that all up. The beef is in here. Add the rest of the, I'm just going to add the rest of the broth. So that was 2 boxes, so that was 64 ounces. But it's kind of a double batch. Ooh, it smells good. You could smell the wine, all the flavors coming together. Okay, so I took some of the broth out right now, and I'm adding a little bit of flour to it. And I did add the flour on the, but I'm going to mix it up separately because I don't want the flour to get all chunky in that big pot. And this just helps. I add probably maybe a teaspoon of flour. This is just going to help thicken it up more. And now I'll add it. And when you mix the flour in there, you want to make sure that the broth of the stew is hot. And then you're going to add the flour to that, mix it up so it doesn't... Okay, so this, I brought the heat up a little bit because I want to bring it to, not a roaring boil, but I want it to a slow boil, and then I'm going to turn it down, put the lid on it, and let it simmer. But this is going to be more than enough to share, take some meals. So now I'm just going to start cleaning this up, and oh, the pumpkin. Let's see if that's done. And I need new oven mitts because Abby had some fun with it. Okay, so there's the pumpkin. And the way you'll know it's done, I just put a knife in there and it's super tender. So that is done. And I'm going to let this cool off. Just let it totally cool. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to turn the oven off. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and let this come to that slow boil, turn the heat down, and let it simmer with the lid on. And the next thing, after the pumpkin's cool, I'll bring it back for that. And once that is done, I am going to bring you and show you how I do the my grandma's dumplings. They're delicious. Absolutely freaking delicious. So, alright, beef stew's going to cook. And I'll get the pumpkin after it cools down, take the skin off, and I'll show you that, and then I'll puree it. And I'll bring you back when I'm doing it. Okay, so I took the pumpkin out of the oven, and this one I already cleaned all the insides out from the pumpkin skin. And sometimes the skin will just peel right off, but it's not peeling that easily, so I'm just using a spoon and gently, so you're not gutting out the skin too. And I'm adding that to a blender pitcher. Oh, there's a couple seeds in there. Still a little hot. I'm going to get as much pumpkin out. And I just stuck a knife in there, and it was, you know, to see how tender it was. And it went in really, really easy, so. Another seed. right now, just getting a lot of the meat out of there. So that's done. So now it's in my blender. Just gonna put the lid on and start the blender. Okay, I'm gonna mix it up. Just gonna keep pushing that down in there. Okay. And now the pumpkin is all pureed. So I'm gonna go ahead, let's see how much we got out of that. So this is a 2-cup measuring. And these are the pumpkins that I grew. And let's say if you didn't grow any pumpkin, but you grew butternut squash, you could do the same thing with that. And you can make a butternut squash pie that can taste like pumpkin pie, depending on how you make it. So right now, I got about 2 cups out of that, which is enough to make a pie. I'm not going to do that right now, though. I'm just going to let this cool off a little bit more, and then I'm going to put it in a bag. And you just follow the basic pumpkin pie recipe. Or if you want to make pumpkin muffins or pumpkin whatever you want to make, pumpkin cheesecake. Just follow the recipe, but this is pure pumpkin. Nothing's added to it at all. And so, okay, wanted to show you that. Here are the pumpkin seeds. I think I roasted them too much though. And at a higher temperature. They're not bad. They just taste more roasted. I like it better at a lower temperature though. So, okay, so I cleaned the kitchen up a little bit, and right now I am going to start on my dumplings. This is my grandmother's recipe. It was probably passed down through the years, and I'm sure other people have made it this way. I don't really know. She's the only one that I know that made it this way. And as kids, we loved it. As far as I was concerned, she never made enough of them. There was 5 kids in our family. So, okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I measured out about 2 cups of flour. So I'm adding that to this bowl. And the beef stew is still cooking, and it's getting thicker. So, and it smells wonderful. It tastes wonderful. Now, again, that was a double batch. So, you know, if you're using 1 pound of meat, you're going to probably use like 3 larger carrots. Maybe 1 stalk of celery. I mean, it's all up to your own taste. What else did I put in there? Oh, the potatoes. I used probably 8 medium-sized red potatoes and then cut those into quarter-size pieces. And as far as like the seasoning, the bay leaves I added to this batch, which was doubled. I added 3 bay leaves, and I added a little over a tablespoon of thyme, fresh thyme. And so if you're only doing 1 batch, I would probably do half of that for the thyme. And of course, salt and pepper, and the flour, and the browning, and all of that goes with it. Right now I got a pot of water that I want to boil. So I went ahead, and that's 2 cups of flour right now. And I am going to add about, this is the pink Himalayan salt. So it's actually, the pink Himalayan is actually even better for you than the regular white table salt. It's healthier, it's got more minerals in it. So I'm only gonna add like maybe a half a teaspoon. So it's flour, a little bit of salt, and eggs. So, and it's the consistency that you're looking for. So that was 1 egg. 2. I'm gonna start out with 3 eggs and the 2 cups of flour. And we'll see how that goes. Then I'm just going to mix that all in. So I'm definitely going to need some more eggs in here. So here's number 4 and number 5. Let's see how this does. Okay, I'm going to add some more egg. So the stew's been cooking about an hour and a half. And 2 cups of flour, that's a lot. I'm going to make a lot of dumplings, but I'm also going to share them with people, so. And make sure that you get everything mixed up really good. Oh, this is going to be so good. And this is about the consistency that I want it. So it's kind of stretchy. And if it's just a little too dry, you can add a little bit of water if you don't want to add another egg. So I did 2 cups of flour and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 eggs. And right now it's at the consistency that I want it. It's kind of like stretchy. No. Okay. And the other thing that's really important, at least the way she showed me, I'm going to get a plate. And I'm going to put some of this on a plate, not all of it. And I'm going to kind of spread it out a little. Oh, this is going to be so good. Okay. Then you get a butter knife. You have to use a butter knife. That's what my grandmother said. So, all right, spreading it on the plate. And it's kind of that elastic type. I mean, it breaks off, but. And just that little pinch of salt, or, I don't know. With the Himalayan, I use probably a little under a quarter teaspoon. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and use this so when the dumplings are done, I can take them out. And I'm going to get a bowl. Okay, so I'm going to move the camera so you can see what I'm doing over by the stove. Okay, so the stew is simmering over here, and I have a pot of boiling water. And all you're going to do, you don't want to get too much, but about that much on the knife. That's it. Drop it in the water. I'm going to have a lot of dumplings. And she used to do it a lot faster. I think she made it a lot more than I ever have. They're so good though. So again, you're just going to use probably about that much. You don't want to make them too big because they'll be doughy. You don't want that. And whenever I drop it in, I touch the knife with the water to clean it off and go right back to the plate again. And once they start rising, that means they're almost done. They go in the pot of water. And she was awfully funny. You know, you don't want to make them too big. And she would stand there and watch me to make sure I did it right. So about that much on the knife. And there's going to be seasoning in whatever food you're going to be adding the dumplings to, like the stew. So I don't want to add a lot of salt to it. I'll let them cook a little bit. And I'm going to add some more dough to the plate. Look at the dumplings. Yum! Oh my gosh. Even Abby's watching me. Of course, she's not going to get any. I don't think it would be good for her. There they are. Once that cools down a little, I'm going to give it a taste. And continue. I definitely want a lot of dumplings because everybody loves them. I don't know, she had a quick wrist. So this recipe's been in our family with my grandmother. This recipe has to be over 100, which she probably got it from her mother. And my family is, well, she was Hungarian, so, and on my dad's side German, so I'm Hungarian German. But my great-grandparents came right from Hungary. I could see some of these I probably made, a little too big, but that's all right. It's still going to be good. So I know my sister Bonnie wanted this recipe, so Bonnie, I hope you're watching. And Jennifer. And whoever else wants a recipe. I'm going to put some more dough on here, let these cook a little. And I used the spatula I was mixing the stew with, so there's little specks on there. That's the thyme and things from the, oops. Before I add more of this, give it a minute and take these out. They're done. And it's so simple. I mean, it's just flour, egg, a little bit of salt, and if you want to add just a little bit of water if it's too dry, if you don't want to add another egg. But I hope you guys are all doing well out there. Christmas is right around the corner. I got my one tree. It's actually up all year. All I decided to do is plug it in. I'll have to decorate it, but I do have another tree I put in the front window. And I still have to make my cowboy candy. Plus, I'm going to make a Christmas bread. It's cranberry and I think orange is in there. I made it last year. I got to look up the recipe again. But it was very delicious. I called it Christmas bread. And then also I make a Christmas jam. And that's with cranberries, or Christmas jelly, with cranberries and strawberries. And then I want to make a hot pepper jelly. So I'll bring you along when I do that. And I've been going through the seed catalogs. I got the seed catalog from Baker's Creek. Absolutely love that seed catalog. I think I have pretty much all the seeds I'm really going to need, but there's some flowers that I've been highlighting that I want to try this year. But I'll show you what I'm going to, once I get all the seeds that I want, I'll do a video on that. And also I will be starting some lettuce. And lettuce takes, for you to have a salad, you know, if you just do the seeds like in a cluster, and I use like a small like window box type planter and put it under my plant light, and you can actually have a salad, lettuce, in 30 days. I want to go for some to grow into heads, so that's going to take just a little bit longer. I like the crispiness of the heads. Some of these dumplings are a little bit bigger, but that's okay. I think we're pretty much done when they float, but leave it in there for like another couple minutes just to, you know, cook them a little bit more. I don't know, I think these are so good. And cookies I'll be making that my grandmother made, which I make every Christmas. Okay, so I'm done with the dumplings. I'll move this back. Let's see how we're doing with the stew. Okay. I'm going to move this over here. It's still going to cook a little bit longer, but I'm going to go ahead and dig in. So I'm going to get some dumplings and put them on the bottom of my bowl. Maybe a little bit more because I love the dumplings. And doesn't that look good? Check. Oh yeah. Now this is going to continue to cook on a low simmer. I like my stew a little thicker. And I mean, if you wanted to add mushrooms to this, green beans, you can add whatever you want. The only thing, you know, just with this recipe, like I said, I doubled it. So you want to make sure you're not adding too much seasoning if you're only doing half of this, which would be 1 pound of meat and less carrots, 1 box of the chicken broth, probably about 1.5 cups of the red wine, and the thyme and the bay leaves. I put 3 in this one, but the thyme, I would start out with a little, you know, maybe 1.5 teaspoons, mix it all in, let it cook for a little while, taste it, and if you want to add more thyme, then add more thyme. I love thyme. And the red wine in this is delicious. So, all right, we're going to give this a try. First, let me show you. That's all the dumplings. It's quite a bit. Probably not enough, though. Okay, so I'm going to move the camera and show you. Okay, so here's the beef stew and the dumplings. And I let it cool down just a little bit before I brought you back. Brings back childhood memories with the dumplings. Oh my gosh. I hope you guys try it. And if you do, let me know. And I'm going to go ahead and put the ingredients for the dumplings in there and what I did, but a lot of it is you also got to make sure you get the right consistency, which is kind of like a stretchy, This is my favorite. And this is going to get thicker, the stew. But even just the way it is, it's delicious. Let that cool off a little bit more. But anyhow, thank you so much for joining me. Hopefully I'll be back sooner. Oh, here's that. I let the pumpkin puree cool down. I'm going to put that in a freezer bag and freeze that until I'm ready to use it. So, making the beef stew, it's not hard at all. The dumplings are super, super easy. It probably takes a total of maybe 10 or 15 minutes to put the ingredients together, mix it all up, and then 15 minutes you got dumplings. And, you know, to add to anything. Chicken paprika, she always did. The beef stew. Anything that you want dumplings with. So I just want to say thanks for coming back. Thank you to all the subscribers. I'm actually, like, I have, I think, maybe 120 more. I haven't looked lately. I have not been on here, and I apologize for that. Not that it's like, you know, a huge channel or anything, but I'm working on it, and I'll bring it back when I, you know, plant my lettuce seeds. There's so many people that, regulars like Al, thanks Al, Moonwalker, I believe it's in California, and different friends locally to me, Michelle, and that have watched the channel. I'm not sure who else does, but if you do know me, or if you are watching, go ahead and leave a comment. I'm never really sure who's watching, but I'd love to know where you're from. And get to know you. So anyhow, I hope this is good. If you try it, please let me know how you like it. And again, I will put in the description the ingredients and the recipes for the dumplings and for the beef stew. And the pumpkin was easy. You just roast that. And I'll also add the pumpkin seed. I roasted it at too high of a temperature. I'm not recommending that. I like it the other way, on a lower temperature. But they're still good, but I like it better. Not so high heat. And all right, that's it. And thanks for joining me, and I will talk to you in the next one. All right, bye.